Welcome to Branded Content Trends. I'm Andrew Cantor, Global CEO of the Branded Content Marketing Association. There's a growing trend in brand activism and purpose-driven marketing, with consumers increasingly expecting brands to speak out about important social issues. Recent examples include Nike's Just Don't Do It campaign, Bodyform's Womb Stories, and Brewdog's Forest, where they will plant 1 million trees, becoming the first carbon negative global beer business. The BCMA are committed to producing the best practice guide to meaningful branded content, a manifesto of principles that members adhere to in pursuit of creating and producing the most meaningful experiences in branded content. We spoke to Jez Jowett, Managing Partner Content for North America and Global Director Media Creativity at Havas Media Group, about the importance of meaningful branded content. Here's what he had to say.
My name is Jez Jowett. I am the head of content and partnerships in North America for the Havas Media Group, and I play a global role driving media creativity. One thing you won't know about me is that for 6 years, I ran a glamping business in the south of Italy.
Wow. Amazing.
Know that, would you? Not many
No,
people know
absolutely not. Okay, so from your perspective,
it wasn't very successful.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Which is
It
probably
wasn't
why
very
you're not.
successful.
It's probably why you're not doing it now.
It was a lot of fun, and we got to be very sort of give something back, and it was
Yeah.
a very nice, meaningful thing to do.
Well, there you go. Talking of meaningful. So what is meaningful branded content? How does it make a difference?
At Havas, we're committed to making meaningful content. That means identifying what the role is of content, but also making sure that the content that we make, we're making it as meaningfully as possible. So to deliver upon that and to give ourselves a commitment and a set of principles and a set of best practices that we believe are important to make content as meaningful as possible, we've developed 4 core areas that we're trying to put some standards around. So the first is sustainability. The second is representation. The third is inclusivity. And the fourth is around recycling and our commitment to being as carbon neutral as possible.
Why should brands take this approach?
I think all brands have a commitment to do everything with as humanly as possible to apply the best principles to making content. And it can be a commitment to making a tiny little step in terms of how we cast a brainstorm, how we ensure that there's the ability for people who may not have a strong voice within a brainstorm to still submit a great idea, for example. So whether that be through them submitting something anonymously or submitting something virtually because they're not in the meeting room. So all the way along the sort of ideation process and through to the production process, there's loads of little steps that all brands can make. And if we all make those little steps, then collectively we'll start to all go on a purposeful journey to make content more meaningfully.
So what is the best way to go about this?
So the best way to go about this, I think, is for every group or agency and brand to agree with their team and fundamentally how they want to produce content as meaningfully as possible. So it intrinsically needs to start with the passion and commitment from a team, because some of the things we found in our early stages would be a lovely thing to achieve, but the reality of trying to sort of carbon offset every single sort of contribution can sometimes be difficult. So we then have to make a sort of generalization or a larger sort of commitment. So there's certain steps which become really hard to do, but fundamentally the starting point is to agree with the team how they think they can start to make content in a more meaningful way. How can they start to consider the attendance of a brainstorm when the ideas start? How can they start to do that in a more positive way, a more inclusive way, and a more sustainable way? And then how to, when we come to make the content, how do we make sure that we're doing it as ethically as possible? How we're doing it so that any carbon or any wastage that might be incurred through the content production process, we're finding a way to recycle or to upcycle, or to certainly never make any contribution to landfill.
And that's really about, I mean, I suppose this is kind of bringing teams together as well, isn't it? Working really closely, you know, across lots of different disciplines as well. I guess that's can often be a challenge, but it seems like that's something you've worked very hard at.
I think the benefit that we're finding is it brings a lot more passion from the team to get involved, because they know that they've got a voice from the beginning as to what we're trying to do. So it's a principle that they want to, you know, sort of deliver upon, and it's giving them a really nice structure for them to choose and see the contribution that that's making to the content that they're creating as well.
Mm.
So of all the stages within the creative and content production process, the area where we're finding that the changes and the best practices and the principles that we're able to put in place, where it's making the most impact, is actually at the creative stage, is at the idea stage, is at the brainstorming stage. So it's very, very, very much at the beginning stage when us as content creatives will normally receive the strategic brief. But when we go into that place to start ideating, that's where we're finding having a set of principles to how we ensure there's full representation of the audience with brainstorm. So it's not, so of course it is about making sure that the people who are brainstorming are the audience or are the recipients from the audience, right? We also make sure there's the ability to have diversity and inclusion so that there are completely different voices able to, you know, sort of express themselves. Within that stage, obviously through Zoom, believe it or not, it has enabled, you know, a benefit for people to have, you know, equal visibility and representation within a screen. But of course, sometimes they don't want their voice to be heard. So again, we put in principles there that enable us for people to have an anonymous idea and to contribute in a way that they don't feel they have to raise their voice. So that's started to make real impact, because it's given a voice to people before who possibly weren't expressing themselves in an area. We carbon offset every single physical meeting we have with the brainstorm, and that's really easy for us to do. So we have a carbon calculator, and then we'll offset that, you know, again, what we do. But what that's helped make us do as well is actually not have brainstorms inside a room. Right? So we go for a walk. So if we're brainstorming thing which is specifically to a multicultural audience, then we'll go and we'll walk around that area. My teams will go and walk around in that area and have the freedom to have space for their ideas to sort of, you know, come out. But then their influence, our ideas are directly influenced by the environment of which they're in, is relevant to the audience. So it's things like that have just sort of naturally made us start to think differently about where ideas can come from. And I think that alone, you know, already, you know, we're really happy with, you know, the impact that's making, and also just the pride and just for, you know, the satisfaction that the teams are having, knowing that they're doing this and they're doing it in a way that's meaningful to them. Yeah, that's, if there's one step I think people can do along this journey, is to do that. Think about how you sort of manage the brainstorm session in a way that's
really
more,
important part.
you know, inclusive and diverse and representative, as well as outdoors or somewhere different that doesn't affect the atmosphere.
So final question really, how will it positively impact on the branded content industry?
I think anything that shows that us as an industry and as a group of individuals are committed and will continually commit to find new ways to make content as ethically and as representative and as inclusive as possible is always a positive thing to do. So anything that we can all contribute towards, I hope will inspire more of us to do more of the same. So I do hope that it will have a benefit, that people will enjoy making more great content, because they know that the commitment, or let's say the carbon contribution towards it, is not going to be a negative thing to creativity.
I mean, I think that's also the interesting part, is that there's lots of different elements to it. So I think that really gives people a real spectrum of involvement, you know, in terms of how they can achieve that. And I think that that's the great part of it. And as you say, it's a collaborative process as well, isn't it? It's, you know, doing things together, which is always, I think, much more interesting and exciting. So, you know, I think the good news is, you know, we've got to take those steps. The reactions have been very positive, certainly from our perspective as well, when we've talked about this and our objectives in putting this forward for a best practice guide for our members and beyond. So it's really great. So I thank you for that, Jez, and I really look forward to hearing more about it. So always good.
Thank you very much, Andrew.
Thank you for watching this episode of Branded Content Trends. If you want to know more information about the BCMA, please visit www.thebcma.info. We look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.